he's always played really well in spring training. He has a career spring training OPS of 1,084. So I want to like everybody to realize like this is just like what he does when he's down here for some reason. I don't know what it is. Like he's just really comfortable in spring training. But he's just looked so good this first, these first 8-9 days of spring. Obviously the fielding, like we know how good of a fielder he is, like, and that hasn't missed a beat. But offensively, he's doing everything you want to see him do, right? He's having good at bats. He hasn't struck out yet. So 14 at bats so far, no strikeouts. He's putting the ball in play. He's putting it in play hard. Like he's hitting the ball and he's blistering it. He's lifting the ball. He's hit 2 home runs already. He's driving in runs. Man, like he looks really, really, really good. And you titled this, breakout season. I need to see a little bit more. Like I actually need to see it in the regular season. But like right now, my expectations of Bryan Hayes are the highest they've ever been. Like I think this dude legitimately has figured it out. I think he's figured it out finally, right? And all these years we've waited for him to figure it out. I think he's finally done it. You look at how he finished last year. You look at how he looks right now. He just looks like a different baseball player than what he looked like in 2022 or 2021 or even the beginning of last year. Like I said, a lot of pulling the ball, a lot of hitting the ball hard, a lot of hitting it in the air. I am excited for this season to see Bryan Hayes. Like I put it out there, like this dude could get MVP votes this year if he's able to do this over the course of a season. Yeah, like I think this is the year like he puts it all together.
I'm very hopeful that this is the year. Things seem to be lining up that it could be. I said on NS9 Live that, yeah, like to me, March doesn't matter. You show the career stats in spring. What he's doing right now isn't why I'm going to be intrigued, isn't why I'm hopeful, isn't why I'm excited about Bryan Hayes. But I am going to pump the brakes. Like, again, I need to see it in April to then say this is why it is a breakout season. This is why to hype it and believe it. All I can tell you now is things that make me feel like it is different. Like I think what you're alluding to this time. Like, we're not going to be tricked this time. It is different. Believe me, trust me on this one, right? And I guess the reason is a lot of it deals with last year. A lot of it deals with the fact that, of course, he did it for 2 months at the end of the season, right? That's what we talked about. Like he's done it. We've seen it, so maybe he can carry over. But I think what's most important is not so much like the performance. Let's talk a little bit about like the mental aspect of it.
Yep, I was bring that up too. Yep,
it seems like okay. I think Fort talked about someone else, but it's like people need to start taking like their careers in their own hands, right? And the coaching is one thing, but until a player says like I'm going to take this into my own hands, I'm going to find out who I am and do that. That's usually when things like start to click and such, right? And I feel like Bryan's done that, like last year, and just with talking. I mean, we still don't know the exact story between Nunnally and everything, right? But it just seems as if Bryan Hayes got to a point where he said, I'm tired of this shit. I want to be a good player, and I'm going to be a good player. And he did whatever he needed to do to like achieve that. And we saw like those final few months of what he was, right? That to me is like, I feel like what the most important is. And we talk about also like with more or less with rookies, right? Like you want to see players struggle because it's through the struggles that they usually learn, develop, become a better person. They come up and they're just good. They don't find out like what they're not good at. They don't learn to adapt. They don't learn baseball, right? They're just the talent's taken whatever. And Bryan Hayes has struggled a long time. and again, like maybe it just took that long time to him to say like, I'm tired of this. But like on the other aspect, and this is like, I'm not psychoanalyzing everything, but on the other aspect, like he is a very typically quiet person. We've seen him be more vocal. And I don't know if this is all a combination of everything as well, but like we've seen him be much more vocal about things. And he's even talked about like on the broadcast, like this, like I'm now one of the older players. I'm now a guy that they come to and talk to. So like, I don't know if this whole leadership thing is clicking. I don't know if it's like, I need to be a better person. I need to be a better player. And like, it's all clicking happening. But like, that's the thing that kind of stands out to me. That's what's different. That's what I can actually see. It's different. The spring training numbers are the same as they've pretty much been all his career. But it seems to be what's different is him, Bryan. He seems to be different. So that's kind of where I think that's why I feel more confident what these numbers are and how it could translate. I think he wants to be a better player, and damn it, he's going to be.
Yeah, I went into originally there just how he's looked, right? But you also hit the nail on the head there. He just seems like a different person, like in general. Like he's changed his demeanor. He's confident. Like you can tell he is riding high with confidence right now. And I mean, he should be, right? Like he just won a Gold Glove. He just won his first career Gold Glove. He ended last season just tearing the cover off the ball. Like he legitimately played MVP caliber baseball for the last 2 months of the season last year, right? So he should be confident. And that's a big difference, I feel like, between now, because he's like exuding that confidence. He's saying, hey, you know what? Like I'm here. I deserve to be here. I'm a good baseball player, like you mentioned. There was something that stuck out to me last week. MLB Network was in Bradenton, and Cliff Lloyd interviewed Bryan Hayes for like a 5-minute segment. First off, have we ever heard Bryan Hayes talk for 5 minutes in his entire career? I don't know, but like the dude like never opens his mouth. But that's another thing you're seeing this spring is like he's talking a lot more. He's on camera. He's being more vocal. He's being like that leader. But I think it just comes back to the confidence. Like I think he's just riding high with confidence right now. But one thing that stuck out to me in that interview with Cliff Lloyd, and if you haven't watched it, go on like the MLB TV app or MLB whatever. But if you go on there, you can see like the Pirates spring training thing. It's like 21 minutes long. It's a good watch. You should go watch it. But in there, Cliff Lloyd asks him, you're coming off a Gold Glove this year. Do you have any goals for this season? And Hayes said that he's actually never set goals for himself, like going into a year. He kind of just like went into it and just tried to do his best, right? But Hayes mentioned on that interview, he's like, I do have some goals this year. He's like, I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I've got some goals this year. And I was like, ooh, that means he's got some high goals this year. Like he believes in himself. So I think we're seeing a more confident Bryan Hayes. We're seeing a Bryan Hayes who just like, he has a plan now. Like he knows what he's doing. Whereas before it just seemed like, yeah, he was in the batter's box and he was just kind of doing whatever felt right at the time. But he's a different player now. He's a different person now. He's got a whole different demeanor. Like I said, I'd recommend going back to watching that interview, because when I saw that, I was like, he's different. Like he's different this year. I was like, I can't wait to see it like over the course of a whole season. And he keeps talking about how like he needs to stay on the field, and I get that. Like Bucko Mike with his whole fragile Hayes thing. Like, yeah, Bryan Hayes needs to play 150 games. Like if he wants to be that dude, he's got to play 150 games. He can't do this 120, 130 game stuff. Like he's got to be on the field a lot, because the Pirates need him. They need him in that lineup every day.
Yeah, man. Like this is all reasons to actually like buy in and get excited. The results is what ultimately matters. And again, like we're going to find out more of this in April, I feel, because it is March. He does well in Bradenton. He's doing well again. So, it's not as if it's like, well, this time in March, he's actually like carrying over and playing good. He's done this before. And trust me, I get it. And I'm not here to tell you like it's going to happen. He's going to be an MVP. But what I'm going to tell you is there's a lot of reasons to actually buy in this time going into this year. And I think you're right. I mean, this isn't also this isn't also something we've done every year with Cabran. Like, it's not as if he's done this and it's like we've hyped him up. We've always had these concerns. Like you said, this is the most excited you've ever been for Cabran, and I'm with you. You know, we've been pretty much calling like, hey, if he can just be like the bat, there's more to desire. There's definitely talent there. He hits the ball very, very hard, right? But like typically into the ground. I mean, I've kept talking about like Eric Hosmer with him all the time. Like the comps in that sense is just he hits the ball very hard, but into the dirt. He could be better, but just isn't, you know, in that aspect. But I don't. I feel like he wants it, and I feel like we're not settling for an average bat here. He has that potential to be a much better, above average bat. And if, like you said, if he can, we've already seen the defense. You already see the defense, and he's already gotten to that point where it's being recognized. He's got to go glove this year.
Yep.
And we raved on NS9 Live watching him play defense just in batting practice and his drills. And it's just like, God, this guy's so good. He's just so good defensively. Just so good defensively. And Jim, if he can have that plus bat, we know he's a 5-WAR like walking floor. If he has a plus bat, he's a 5-WAR player year in and year out because of that defense.
Yep.
Huge for the Pirates.
He's a perennial all-star if he can hit a little bit. And like I said, going back to the second half of last year, 539 slugging percentage. Second half of last year for Bryan Hayes, he had an OPS of 874. 874. Like if that's, and I'm not saying like that's who he is, like, but if that's who he is, if Bryan Hayes is an 874 OPS hitter, he's literally like in MVP talks.
Yes. So that's like 5-WAR offensively. He's like an 8-WAR player right then and there with those numbers. So like a 7-8 WAR.
Like I said, it's hard to take stuff from spring training, but he's just doing every single thing you want to see him do, both on the field and off the field. Like
we talk about question marks
right now. Yep.
Right. And you talk about question marks, and like Bryan Hayes was a huge question mark. Like, which version of Bryan Hayes is he? I'm not saying anything's answered, right? But again, these are a lot of reasons that you can start looking on the other side of the question mark and saying, you know what, I'm kind of believing this. Want to see more of it, but I'm kind of believing this.